In my episode 30, I read stories of paranormal sightings on various public transportations. Today I'll focus down specifically to metro, subway, underground stations, and trains. Born and grew up in Seoul myself, metro always played the most important means of transportation. The first metro line in Korea opened in relatively recent 1974, but by now metro in Seoul metropolitan area has grown extensive and complicated, with 11 lines that covers not only the Seoul city itself, but also various bed towns around Seoul and other major towns such as Incheon, Suwon, Chuncheon, and beyond. The extensive and coherent system, relatively affordable fare, and modern conveniences such as Wi-Fi coverage and air conditioning can easily put the Seoul metro system an exemplary one. With a passenger number exceeding 7 million daily, it is bound that the metro trains and stations would have seen all sorts of people and incidents. Weird and wacky people witnessed on metro trains, for example, could probably rival the people of Walmart series in the US. Unfortunately, not all incidents can be brushed with a good humor, though. Until the installation of safety screen doors was completed in the stations in Seoul, the metro system saw consistent 20 to 30 fatal incidents annually, either by the choice or accident. One could assume almost any station in the network saw at least 1 or 2 deaths in its history. I guess it's not a surprise to come across paranormal sightings from metro trains and stations. So, here are 7 allegedly true paranormal sightings from metro trains and stations. As always, handpicked, translated, and narrated by host, Anthony. It was in April in my 20th year. At the time, I had a part-time near Yeoksam station. It was a Friday, I got just paid, so I and other colleagues had some drink after work. It was a lot of fun, but I had to catch the last train, so had to call it a day. The train was emptier than usual, especially considering it was a Friday night, but I was nicely tipsy and didn't think any of it much. I took the last seat in the row and leaned my tired head to the handlebar. The train stopped at the next station and the door opened, and right there on the platform was sitting a woman on the bench. It was but a brief moment, but I couldn't miss her calm beauty. Simple white dress, long straight hair. Wow, what a beauty! Our eyes met, and she smiled. Did she smile at me? I looked around and found nobody around me. She was smiling at me. Just a brief moment, but my heart surged. Then the door closed, and I realized something. Cold sweat sprung up on my back. You see, I normally wear contacts, but that day my eyes got particularly dry and took them off before we went for drinks. My eyesights were -2 and could hardly see anything past a certain distance. Then, how could I see the woman on the platform so clearly? I still remember the day whenever April returns. Military service is mandatory in Korea, but those who are deemed unfit either for a certain situation or physical condition get to take an alternative called National Service Conscript. Basically, they get to offer various assistance in public offices and service. My friend was such a case, and he worked for Seoul Metro. Anyway, One evening, we two alone went to cinema because neither of us have girlfriends. And near the cinema was a tarot card reader. I knew he was rather famous, and because I like having my fortune told, I queued up. But the card reader seemed to be more interested in my friend, who didn't even ask him to tell his fortune.
"You're an easy target to ghosts,"
the tarot reader said to my friend, and added,
"So, don't go ever to such a place again."
I didn't know what he meant, but still noticed my friend's face changing color. As I said, as a conscript public service, he worked for Seoul Metro. For the particular night shift, he was at Yeongdeungpo Market Station. As sometimes is the case, at the station is an unused platform blocked to the public. It was meant to be a connecting platform to another line, but for some reason didn't go as planned. Anyway, late at night, rain was dropping outside, there wasn't much to do for the long night, and when the station staff talked about the unused platform, they decided to check it out together for fun. The platform was in pitch dark. Before they could take steps further in, the staff got a call, and he walked out, leaving my friend alone on the platform. He couldn't see anything, except for a faint line of blue light shone on the ceiling. My friend assumed the staff must have left the door ajar, and the light should be coming from it. He waited for his eyes to get used to the darkness, but they didn't. There was no way to explore when he couldn't see anything, and the staff guy wasn't returning. So he turned back to get out himself, only to find the door was completely shut. But then, where was the blue light from, he wondered. When he looked up, the line of blue light was still there, but unlike earlier, now it looked more curved, like a bent arm. When his thought reached there, he realized a faint face behind the faint blue light of an arm. My friend screamed and ran out. The station staff didn't believe him and dragged my friend back down to the platform, but by then there was nothing. Since then, my friend did his best not to go back to the station. But that wasn't the only weird experience he had. Maybe the tarot reader was right after all, that he's an easy target for ghosts. Working as a public service agent for Seoul Metro, he was most frequently stationed at Mokdong Station. That night too, after the last train departed, he looked around the platform to check. Then he found one screen door left open at the end of the platform. My friend suspected it malfunctioning and radioed the control office.
"I'm on the platform to Panghwa direction. A screen door is left opened."
"Which one?" "Oh, on the far left of the platform, you mean?" the staff said.
That's right. Shall I try to close it manually?"
my friend asked. "No, just leave it and come back." My friend turned back to check on the door again, and by then it was closed again. He just shrugged and went on with his shift, though he briefly wondered how the staff could immediately pinpoint which door. Maybe that happened frequently? About 3 months passed. My friend was on the night shift once again and was looking around the same platform after the last train. And there it was again, the same door left opened. He rang the control office on radio, but before anybody answered it, he saw a shoe lodged between the door and the edge of the platform. A white sneaker? Oh, some wasted drunk young thing must have dropped it there and didn't even notice. When the staff picked up the radio, my friend casually reported as he approached the door.
The same screen door is left opened. I see somebody left a sneaker there, and that probably is the cause.
Hey, don't pick it up. Leave it. No. Wait till I get down there.
The staff's response sounded somewhat urgent. Now, my friend could clearly see it was a Nike Max, and its heel all folded inwards as the owner must have used it more like a sleeper. He wondered. It was just a shoe triggering the sensor of the door. What's the big deal? Then his thought reached, if a person had fallen to the rail track, could that be the reason the staff was coming down himself? He poked his head past the screen door and looked around on the rail. Nothing. He felt relieved and deflated at the same time and just bent down to pick up the shoe. Uh-oh. But he couldn't. It wasn't just some chewing gum or sticky floor. It didn't budge at all.
Oh, you bastard! Shoo!
Friend saw the metro staff running and shouting. Before he understood what was going on, the staff ran over and slapped my friend several times, one after another. Are you okay? Staff said.
Oh, ouch! Why do you slap me? What did I do wrong?
My friend protested. But the staff didn't explain anything and simply told him, Go home. I'll excuse you from tonight's shift. Following day, he confronted the staff what that was all about. The staff explained. As he walked along the platform, he saw my friend bent down to pick up the shoe. And a hand from the darkness of the rail track side, holding down the shoe. He feared if my friend wasn't already possessed by the ghost, so he ran and slapped around my friend to shake him up. Apparently, before the screen doors were installed, a young woman threw herself to a train at that very point. Rumor says it was after breaking up with her boyfriend, but who knows? Since then, there had been quite a few sightings. Once an older metro staff saw a woman behind the screen door knocking and shouting,
Help! I got stuck! Please open the door!
The staff quickly radioed the control room, but then realized there was not enough space between inside the door and the platform. When he glanced back at the door, there was the woman no more. Another time, a newbie staff saw on the surveillance screen the very door at the end of the platform left opened, and through it, a head of a woman poking out, smiling at the camera. When he took a look at the screen a second later, the door was now closed, and the smiling face was gone too. Even after the incident, my friend saw the door left open a few times more. But of course now he knew better and just ignored it for the rest of his service there. It's a story from a guy who used to work for Metro as a national service conscript. The station he was based was not the busiest one, and he could take it easy past the morning rush hour. That day too, he was flipping through the newspaper to kill time. Then he lifted his eyes to look around the platform and saw a man crawling over the rail track. It must be some drunken guy fallen on the railway, he thought. He shouted to him to get up and come to the platform, but the man didn't seem to hear him. He couldn't possibly leave him there, and ran over and was about to jump onto the rail himself, when somebody snatched him by the collar and pulled back, and just then he sensed the rushing wind of a train passing right in front of him. The one who pulled him back was the station staff. The staff took the confused service conscript guy to the bench and sat him down. "I was watching over the screen from the surveillance cameras and saw you shouting to something. I came out to the platform to check what was up and saw you running over the platform. A train was entering, but you seemed about to jump in, though I screamed that there was a train coming. Thank God I could reach at you before too late. What were you thinking? Did you try to jump into the train?" the staff asked. The service conscript guy was still confused. He explained that he saw a guy on the rail track. But when they checked together, there wasn't any sign on the rail, nor any record of such a person from the surveillance camera. I'm not even sure if it is really a scary story or what. Nevertheless, it's really what I saw. It's from 3-4 years ago. I work in Central Seoul, but live in Gyeonggi Province. My work then finished late almost every day. If I was lucky, I might be able to catch the one before the last or the very last metro train back home. My destination was almost at the end of the line too, so by the time it got near my station, I was invariably the last one in the entire train. That night too, I was the only one in the train and just looking out the window opposite with tired eyes. The train stopped at the station, I think 2-3 before mine, and the door opened. In the station, both directions shared a single platform in the middle. And for a second, my heart skipped a beat when I saw a head floating over the edge of the opposite side of the platform. But I quickly realized it was a young boy walking along the rail track. He must have dropped something and was trying to retrieve it. He looked a perfectly normal, probably 10-11-year-old. He seemed a bit tense and he walked quickly. Understandably so. He would have to get off the track before any train approached. I was worried and was about to shout something to him. But the door was closed before I could, and my train departed. A few minutes later, I got off at my station, and as I headed to the exit, I realized something. The height of the platform to the rail track, it was much higher than I thought. It would be well over an average adult's height, and that meant there was no way a little kid walking along the track could be seen from where I was sitting in the train. Who was that boy? What was he up to? Was he really a boy? I still get chills when I think about it. A story my uni-mate told me. It was late autumn. Midterm test was over, and he made a plan to meet up with some friends to celebrate. It was a Friday evening, and the metro station was packed with commuters. And among the sea of people, something caught his eyes. The back of a woman standing further ahead of him. A long, wavy brown hair coming down to the back, black coat and brown boots. He knew well enough not to get fooled by a rear view, but there was something about her. He didn't quite bring himself to squeeze among people to see her closer, but was determined to check her face out when they get on the metro train. But, alas, she didn't get on the same train as his. Oh well. Anyway, he spent the evening with his friends drinking and fooling around. Now it was nearly 2 a.m, and he was on his way back home on metro. He dozed off and missed his station, so he had to get off, cross over, and wait for the train back to the opposite direction. Unlike the earlier, the platform was nearly empty, and so was the train that came after about 10 minutes. And inside the train was the same woman standing in front of the door opposite side. Maybe it was some sort of destiny. Maybe it was his Dutch courage, but he decided to say hello to her this time. So he walked up to her with a jumping heart and stood behind her, gathering his courage to say,
Hello.
But then he noticed something was off. Her both hands seemed to be holding her handbag, not any handles or bar. The train shook quite a bit, enough for my friend to take a step forward and backwards a few times. But the woman was standing so calm, too calm and steady. Sudden chill ran down his spine, and he was about to walk away. But just then the woman's long hair moved about the back of her head, not by wind or the movement of the train, but by fingers poking out through them. The hand was pale and looked as if produced straight out of the woman's skull. It closed the fingers and opened again with a palm up. My friend was too shocked that he couldn't move or even scream. The hand then jutted out to his face. That was where his memory stops. When he got around, he was sprawled out on the platform where he waited for the train back to his station. Maybe it was just an alcohol-fueled nightmare after all. But when he got home and took off his jacket, he saw numerous long, wavy brown hairs stuck on there. Choi Hyun-woo is a famous professional magician in Korea. This is a story he recounted on a TV show as his own experience from his service conscript years. As a service conscript, Choi worked for Seoul Metro. He was paired with a fellow service conscript, and apparently he had a third eye. He would occasionally complain about ghosts in metro stations, but Choi just took it as a joke or a prank. That night, Choi and his mate were on the night shift. The usual routine was, after the last train departed and checking if everybody left the station and everything in order, they would just stay in the office, save for the hourly petrol, till 4:30 in the morning before the first train of the day. Choi was dozing away in the office while his mate was out on patrol, until the mate woke him up.
Hey, get up. I think somebody's left in the station. A boy,
he said. It occasionally happened a drunken person somehow left behind, or a homeless sneaked into the station. But a boy? At this hour? Choi was tired and didn't want to believe the unlikely report. Just tell him to go out then, Choi said.
But you see, I hear the boy, but I can't find him anywhere,
mate said. Choi was irritated, but facing his mate's serious face, he could not help but going down to the platform with him. They They searched around every corner, but could not find the boy. Che himself didn't hear anything either, but his mate kept claiming that he heard the boy, that he was asking where his dad's gone. But Che didn't want to believe his BS anymore and just taunted, "Stop the BS and just get some sleep in the office." Came 4:30, and before he opened up the station to the first passengers of the day, he made the customary radio calls to the central control office to make sure the line was all in order.
Oh, by the way, didn't you hear? It was a mess last night.
The control office staff said. Apparently, when the last train of the previous night came into the next station to Che's post, a man threw himself to it with his little boy in his arms.
God, that was terrible. But what's more terrible was the man survived, while the boy was killed on the spot.
The control staff said. After an alcohol-fueled evening with friends, I was on my way back home on a metro train. It was nearly the last train of the day, if not the very last, and there were just a few other passengers here and there. I sat and soon dozed off, but then got a sleep paralysis. I do get sleep paralysis frequently, so I just calmly tried to move my limbs and opened my eyes. First thing I noticed was that the train was empty. There definitely were a few people dotted around before. I panicked a little bit. Might I have slept past my station and the train be heading to the depot? I rolled my eyes busily to find more information, and stopped at a woman standing at the door linking to the next compartment. Oh, thank God, I wasn't left alone, I thought. But soon I felt uneasy again. She was in red, entirely. Scarlet red skirt suit and matching scarlet stiletto heels. It made an unrealistic contrast to her long jet black hair that came down to her waist and her paper white pale complexion. And she was just standing there motionless like a mannequin until she slowly turned her head to look at me. Her eyes were hidden behind her hair, but her lips alone smirked. Rotten, blotted, and misshapen lips. She then came up to me and said,
You see me, don't you? You see me, don't you? You see me, don't you?
Each time in a different voice and tone. This was just a typical vision one gets in sleep paralysis. It'll be all gone when I break the paralysis, I told myself, and wiggled my toes to wake myself up. As if she could read my thought, the woman crushed the fourth toe of my left foot with a sharp high heel. It was excruciating, and I screamed. I looked around, and other passengers were staring at me for my scream. I was right. It was just a bad sleep paralysis. Now that I was up, it was all over now. I just focused on fiddling my phone to forget how I embarrassed myself. Back home, I checked my left foot just in case, and everything was fine. Next day was Saturday. After a long sleep to 11 in the morning, I forgot all about the nightmare in the metro. I spent the afternoon helping Mom cleaning the house, and as I was just finishing off the bathroom, I heard Mom calling for me urgently from the kitchen.
Son, come here.
What is it? I asked.
Quick.
I jumped and foolishly bumped my toe to the leg of a chair on the way. Pain was excruciating. No wonder, because it was bad enough to lift the toenail of the fourth toe of the left foot. Mom came over for my mourn. "Oh dear, what happened?" she said. "It's because of you called me so urgently," I mourned. "What are you talking about? I didn't," Mom said. "Didn't you call me from the kitchen?" "No, I was just cleaning flower pots in the balcony." I looked down on my toe, bleeding drops of scarlet red, and remembered of the woman in red previous night. Was it all just a coincidence? Whatever the case, I just pray I don't ever encounter her again. Hi, it's Anthony here, and thank you very much for listening. I hope you enjoyed today's stories. Do you commute on public transportations too? I too was for once a typical 9-to-5 office worker and commuted daily on metro trains. By now I'm freelance-based, and despite all the risk it takes, one thing I appreciate the most is that I can escape the terrible rush hour in the mornings and evenings. To be frank, I would rather travel in an empty train with a ghost than a packed full one in which I hardly knew where to put my feet. If you enjoyed my work, please give it a like and a comment, and please consider subscribing to my channel to help my channel grow. If you'd support me more directly, I also have a Buy Me a Coffee account. The link's in the description. Buy Me a Coffee supporters enjoy early access to my new video. Thank you. Until next Sunday, stay safe and take care.